여러분 안녕하세요. 페어포인트 팟캐스트 진행자 한만성입니다. 저희가 늘 음성 컨텐츠를 만들죠. 그래서 영상을 찍는 건 사실 이번이 처음인데요. 그럼에도 불구하고 갑자기 이 뜬금없는 타이밍에 유튜브 채널까지 만들어갖고 저희가 영상을 찍는 이유는 이게 특별한 컨텐츠가 생겼는데 오디오로는 도저히 이게 공유가 좀 어려운 컨텐츠라 우리도 이제 좀 뭐랄까요, 시대의 흐름에 맞춰보자 라는 생각으로 이 영상을 좀 만들게 됐습니다. 저희가 게스트를 사실 이번 방송에 초대를 해서 좀 특별한 그런 방송이 됐는데, 이분이 누구냐 하면요, 여러분 이 2018년부터 2022년까지 우리 한국 국가대표팀 파울루 벤투 감독의 수석코치였죠. 세르지우 코스타 코치를 한번 만나봤습니다. 인터뷰는 꽤 장시간의 인터뷰였고요. 뭐랄까요, 아무튼 꽤 긴 시간 동안 진행이 됐습니다. 한 1시간 반 이상 정도 총 그렇게 진행이 된 것 같은데, 영어로 진행이 됐고 저희가 이제 촬영 후에 자막 작업을 했습니다. 페어포인트 멤버 4명 중에는 저 한만성, 그리고 이준우, 위정호 이렇게 두 형님이 참여를 해주셔서 이렇게 셋이서 진행이 됐고요. 우리 진민이 형은 다음번에 참여하시는 걸로, 그래서 이번에는 관전을 하시게 됐습니다. 어쨌든 굉장히 의미 있는 인터뷰가 아니었나라고 저는 개인적으로 생각을 하고 있거든요. 우리 세르지우 코스타 코치님, 우리 2022 카타르 월드컵에서 수석 코치를 맡았었던 그런 지도자였고, 또 사실 한국 축구가 2022년 이 월드컵에서 12년 만에 월드컵 16강 확정을 짓는데, 사실 그 포르투갈전에서 임시 감독을 맡았었던 그런 굉장히 좀 결정적인 역할을 한 그런 코칭스태프 구성원이었기 때문에 저희가 좀 의미 있는 대화를 많이 나눌 수 있겠다라는 생각을 했었고, 좀 뭐랄까, 이 좀 특별한 인연이 있긴 있습니다, 코치님이랑. 그런 것들도 다 인터뷰 시간을 저희가 가지면서 설명을 했으니까요. 한번 봐주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 그럼 거두절미하고 만나보시겠습니다. 인터뷰 보시죠. Without further ado, I'm going to start introducing our guest here. You know, this is a man who has been an integral part of the coaching staff that led Korea to our last 16 of a World Cup for the first time in 12 years and only third time in history. This is a man who has been working with former Korea national team manager Paulo Bento for a good part of the last 2 decades. So yeah, without further ado, Coach Sergio Costa. Coach, how is everything in Dubai? How has life been for you over there since leaving Korea to a little less than 2 years ago?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you so much for your work. It's a big pleasure to be here talking with you and answering your question. I think now we are already adapted, living in Dubai after 1 year and 2 months. And everything is rolling well. And I think that in the personal life, everything goes well, and also in the professional life too.
Coach, so I'm assuming life in Dubai must be pretty different for you compared to your time, your 4 years in Korea, because culturally, obviously, UAE is a little bit different from Korea, and you know, climate is different. There are a lot of things that are different between Dubai and Seoul. And you've been in Korea for more than 4 years, you know, prior to going to UAE. Was it a challenge for you to make that adjustment?
Yes, it was a big challenge. A big challenge. At the beginning, the different mindset was something that we get used. We had to make it. It was different, the adaptation that we had in Korea after leaving from China or after leaving from Portugal, then when we have to move for Dubai after leaving Korea. But I think that now we are already adapted. We already know the country and the people in terms of cultural aspects, in terms of ideologies, and this makes us feel more comfortable in the cultural aspect, in the personal life, and also in the sports aspect, because it's not possible to dissociate the cultural aspect with the sport aspect.
Coach, and speaking of the sporting aspect in all of this, I'm assuming football in Korea and football in UAE quite different as well. And, you know, because with the UAE national team, most of the key players, primarily, they're based domestically. And, you know, with Korea, it's a little bit different because players come from all over the world because, you know, Korean players play in many different parts of Europe and other parts of the world as well. What has been the biggest difference for you in terms of football between your time in Korea and now UAE?
I think that the biggest difference is that we took more time here to put our team playing in a high intensity as we would like to do than we took in Korea. And this obviously has to do with what we already talked before. The climate is completely different. It's too hot here. The humidity is huge. Also the level of the K League and the level of the internal league here is also different. But now we are in a good way with a good pace. In order we achieve our aims, in order we make history here as we made in Korea. We are trying our best. We are with many obstacles, as you can imagine, but also with a big support from the UEFA in order we achieve our aims.
Coach, speaking of which, September was a very interesting a set of two fixtures for UAE. You guys traveled to Qatar, won there, came back home, and a bit of an unfortunate result against Iran. It was a very competitive game. I was watching it. What was that experience like, Coach? Starting this third round of AFC qualifying for the upcoming World Cup. I mean, going to Qatar, the defending Asian champions, and to win there, I'm assuming it must have been a really big result for you guys. And you know, I mean, obviously the result against Iran at home, slightly a little bit more disappointing, I guess. But the way you guys played in that game, you guys were actually very competitive against a really good team. So I feel like the two performances from UAE in September, it kind of gives us a lot of hope to maybe have an expectation to see UAE at the upcoming World Cup.
What we transmitted to the players was that no matter the result that we are going to achieve, nothing would get achieved now in case of good results or lost in case of bad results. We knew that since 2013, UAE didn't win against Qatar. We know the rivalry that exists within these two countries. But what we did was what we always do: try to choose the best players, try to analyze well the opponent and put our game model in practice, and at the same time oblige the player, the opposite team, to play in the moment of the game that don't like. And in that case, it avoids as much as we can the opponent counterattack against Qatar, opponent set pieces, because it was the two strongest moments of the opponent, and oblige them to play in the moments that they don't like. That is running back in the defensive transition moment. This was what we proposed in our game plan. This was what we did. We scored 3 goals in counterattack situations. This was something that Qatar is not so strong. And against Iran, it was a completely different game. It's always a tough game. It was fair, the result. We competed well, but it was fair. Iran had 2 more chances to score, but we competed. Only playing in our highest level, we can balance the game against this kind of team. Even with Korea, it was difficult to play against Iran. It was really difficult. Iran is always a strong team. Always a strong team.
Right. And you mentioned it right there. I mean, you spoke about your game model and you spoke about, when facing Qatar, you forced them to play in transition. What I wanted to ask you was, Coach, when you were in Korea, along with, Paulo Bento and your technical team, one thing that was always emphasized was the game model and the style of play that you guys always stressed during your time in Korea. Does your style of play in UAE compared to your style of play with Korea during your previous 4 years with us, is it a little? Did Coach Bento change his ways a little bit compared to how he was coaching the team in Korea compared to how he's coaching Team UAE, or is it still much of the same?
We changed something, but in general, we also want to domain the game with the ball, and for that we have to renew some mentality. We have to renew some players here, and we have to choose the players that fit in our profile players position, because for each position to play in the way that we want, we have to have certain profiles, certain features, certain characteristics, and this is what we are proposing to them. They are accepting that everybody wants to play with the ball. It's the pleasure is bigger than run only defensively.
Sure.
But of course, there are stories. Of course,
go ahead.
The risk that we take in our build-up now is not so high than we took in Korea because of the level of the players. You know that,
Mm-hmm.
and so we want to control the game with the ball, but in a rational way.
Sure. Makes perfect sense. Coach, I'm going to take you back a little bit to 2018 when you first arrived in Korea. Because what makes me curious, because we talked about doing this interview for a very long time, Coach, and what makes me really curious is your decision, your technical team's decision to come to Korea. What made Korea an attractive destination for Paulo Bento and your technical team? There must have been other teams who were interested in working with you at the time. So we're curious to know, what was that situation like when you first, that whole decision-making process that led to you guys coming to Korea in 2018?
Okay. When we had the first approach from the CFA in order to schedule meeting with us, we did what we used to do. We gather all the technical stuff and we start to analyze the invitation. What does it mean? Start to analyze the team, start to analyze the league, start to analyze the country in the cultural and historic aspects, and after that we conclude that we had space to improve, and this was the most important. When we choose and when we accept the challenge to go to Korea, we have in mind also, like we have here, to make history in Korea. Because we know that it's not the history to go to the World Cup. Everybody achieved that in Korea. But what I think that we thought on that time and that we achieved is the people will not remember us because we went to Qatar, but the people will remember us because our way of play, because we play against the strongest teams eyes on eyes. We didn't fear anyone, and this was the most important for us. And when we analyze all the qualification matches for 2018, when we analyze the players individually, we thought we have conditions to do much better. And you know why? This is very serious, and it's fantastic to conclude this now. our features as a technical staff match perfectly in the mentality of our players and match perfectly in the features of the Korean people. We are hard workers, such as the Korean people, and we are humble people. And this is, I think, our biggest advantage when we arrive to Korea. This is really good to remember and to conclude.
Sure.
And it was one of the things that made us opt to accept the invitation. And of course, it's not easy to say no to Korea. Korea is one of the strongest teams in Asia. It was a fantastic project. Every time I remember our times in Korea, not only in football, but in our personal lives, my kids are always asking, when will you come back to Korea? When are you going to come back to Korea? Because they loved it. They loved to stay in Korea, and me too. And maybe I will come back to Korea one of these days to visit my friends. I have a lot of friends there.
Sure.
Well, but returning to the question, then we had meeting with me, Paul, and Mr. Kim Pang-gon, and we showed what was our proposal for the Koreans, what we would like to do, and after that we started to work. And then it was one thing really important for us to kind of know all the players that went to the World Cup and all the players that made the qualification phase for 2018. It was a big surprise to see the Asian Games and to see that fantastic teams with such fantastic players like Kim Min-jae, Wang In-bom, Kim Moon-wan. That fantastic team in 2018 in the Asian Games made us believe more that we have much more material to work.
You mentioned meeting up with Mr. Kim Pang-gon. If you can remember, I'm not sure if you can remember this clearly, since it's been a couple of years now. When you spoke to him, what do you think he was the most impressed from your presentation at the time?
I think with our organization, with our methodology, because we explained everything, how were our training sessions, what we would like to have in our training sessions, what the profile players for each position that we have, our game model. We show them in video our game model, and I think that the passion that we have for the game was something that he was impressed at the end. And in the end of the meeting, he told us that he is going to have another meeting with another coach, but it was already decided that it would be us that will coach Korea. And it was a good decision.
Wow. Yeah, definitely was.
Okay, so Coach, when Paulo Bento, you, and your technical team were offered the chance to come to Korea, you mentioned a lot before as well that you watched a lot of Korea's games. What made you confident that Korean footballers can play this possession-based football that enables them to control the game? Because that's not how Korea, I mean, I'm sure you know, that's not how Korea played at the 2018 World Cup. And did you feel that this type of football would suit Korean players right from the get-go as you were scouting the team?
Yes. It's actually due to their technical quality. It was and it still is really high, and their commitment in the moment that they lose the ball. And this is very important for a team that wants to domain the game with the ball possession, through the attacking mind. The moment that you lose the ball, if you are not fast enough, if you are not aggressive enough, you are going to suffer. And it's better don't do it if you don't have this kind of features when you lose the ball. So these two aspects, the technical quality of the players, the mobility that they show it in the match, the desire that they show it with the ball, and the moment when they lose the ball, the reaction that they show in that World Cup, for us is more than enough to assume that we are going to play on that style, and it's a good match because it's our style also. It's our style. For us, it will be very difficult to play in another way. Even in China, where the quality was not so good, we tried to play with the ball possession. And then I repeat, when we saw the Asian game, and we saw that we have much more players with that capacity, we were more convinced of that, and we proposed that to the players, and the players clearly accept. It's in my opinion, everybody has the right to play in a different way, and there is no better way than the others.
Sure.
But in my opinion, without any kind of criticism, it's a crime to take the ball of Sonny. It's a crime to take the ball of Lee Jae-sung, of Wang Yinbo, of Lee Kang-in. It's a crime. They should have the ball. They should have the ball. Then they should run when they lose the ball, because it's a risk. It's a risk. But it's a crime. Don't give them the ball. It's a crime. So I could not be more honest than that. It's my opinion. I repeat.
Sure.
It's not better. It's not a better idea than any other ideas. We see Simeone using a completely different style of
Sure.
play than Guardiola, and both of them are achieving some aims. So, but it's our way. It's our way. So we decided for that.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And you talked about the profile of some of the Korean players.
Mhm.
And when you first arrive, normally, not just Korea, when your technical team first arrive at a team and you discuss the profile of players that you'd want for each position. You mentioned this a lot during in your previous interviews as well. How does that process sort of work for you from a coaching standpoint? Because do you sort of like, as coaching staff, already have a set style that you want in the players in each of these positions? Or do you observe the players in your pool first and maybe come up with that profile after you kind of have a better idea of your resources?
It's a very good question. We have that document with the position player profiles. That is the ideal document, and it's the ideal that we can have. But of course, it's a mix. Of course, then when we arrive to a certain context, we have to analyze what we have in our hands. And I can give you 3 examples of that. For example, for us, for our way of play, we have our goalkeepers should have a good offensive game. And we run to find goalkeepers with that feature. Okay, and we find some very good goalkeepers in Korea with that profile. Well, this is another question that I have, is that why the Korean goalkeepers don't go to Europe? It's a big question because the level is there. We already coached much worse goalkeepers than the Korean ones. But if the market is opening for the players that play in defense, in the midfield, in attack, why don't appear for the goalkeepers also? Because they have also very good features to play in Europe. Other situations, we like that our lateral back gives deep to the corridors and appeared in the box. It's one of the things that we know that is one of the biggest trends of the game now. Is the weakest point of the teams now defensively are the wingers. The wingers are not, because usually they have more talent than the other ones. Usually the wingers
Sure.
are not so committed in defensive. So what we tell to our lateral backs, go to the box because the opposite wingers don't go with you. And with that, you can score. This is one of the features that we have, that we want in our lateral backs. Did we find that in Korea? Yes, on the left side. We find that with Kim Jin-soo, we find that with Park Joo-hoo, we find that with Hong So, but on the right side we could not find that. And we have good players on the right side also. Kim Won-won is a very good player, Lee Young was a very good player, Taewon was a good player, but they didn't have that feature to appear in the box and to achieve to the score opportunities. So we have to arrange different dynamics. We have to adapt, and I think I'm getting able to answer you. That is, we want that profile, but when we don't have, we should adapt our game model to the features that we have. For example, the last example, the striker position. We like a striker that connects well the game between lines. That is a player with mobility. That is a very good support for us in the between line spaces with good mobility. When we saw in 2018 the team in the World Cup, we didn't find that. We had to take a look on the other players, and we found Wijo in Gamba Osaka. Wijo had that feature. We found Lee Jun-yop in, I don't remember so well, but I think in Shonan Bellmare in Japan also, and
Right.
we were running behind the players with that feature. And when you don't have that kind of feature, for example, Joki Song didn't have that kind of feature. Didn't have. He has another feature, very very strong conquer in the box, the aerial duels. He had that kind of features. When you don't have these features, you have to develop your players. You can ask, if you talk with Joki Song, how many hours we lost or we win, seeing videos about our training sessions, our matches, and he really improved on that. He didn't know before what was scanning, what was looking behind to check from where comes the pressure. He didn't know that. We have to make that work. So sometimes the features are there, but sometimes they are not, and you have to work on that if you want to improve your players.
Kim Seung-gyu, our goalkeeper, when he was first being trusted to be your number one, I'm going to be honest with you, Coach, there were some questions. Because, he became the number one for Korea again at a time when Jo현우 became pretty much a national superstar in Korea because he had an amazing World Cup, as you probably know really well, in 2018. When it comes to Kim Seung-gyu especially, what were some things that you saw from him that made you and the technical team believe that, hey, this guy could be our number one going into 2022?
You are right. We are talking about two fantastic goalkeepers. In our opinion, what made the difference at that time was the offensive game of Kim Seung-gyu. With the fit, Kim Seung-gyu is a little bit better than Joe. Joe is also good. Joe Hyun-woo is also good. He plays with both feet also. But I think, and we think that Seung-gyu is a little bit better with the feet. Then Joe is a little bit better in other aspects. For example, the cross interception, Joe is better. I think in the defense of the goal, Joe is a little bit better also. But we are comparing two very good goalkeepers. What I can tell you is that if Kim Seung-gyu were not available, the trust on Joe was 100%, because it's a fantastic goalkeeper. It's a question of detail, It's a question of detail.
Yeah.
Maybe if we have more in mind the defensive aspect, maybe we would choose Joe Hyun-woo.
Sure. No, that makes
it was the reason why Kim Seung-gyu was the first choice.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And from your perspective, Coach, based on the way your staff likes to work, just based on your experience, I don't want you to speak for anybody else, but just based on your experience, how important is it for the coaches, for the staff, to reside in a country of the national team that you guys are in charge of?
Sure. I think we can divide that question into reasons. First is I think our job is more consistent when we are living in the country. When we are living in the country that we are working. The observation that we every week made to the K-League matches give us, in our opinion, more consistency than if we were living abroad. And the details. Sometimes when we were analyzing the matches in the K-League. Sometimes the teams, as you all know, most part of the time don't play as the national team play. The K-League team don't play, and we have to imagine with that features that the players show it, if they fit or not in our way of play, in our game model. Because if we are going to analyze only their performances on their way of play in the clubs, it would be much more difficult. If we were not in Korea on that time, it would be maybe the mistakes would be the mistakes in the selection players would be in a higher number. The second aspect, and another reason that is, for example, in the first year when we arrived, Nasango played in the second division. I think, if I remember, in Guangzhou. Guangzhou.
Right.
I think in Guangzhou.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Out of the country, which coach will assist second division matches of the K-League? No one. And Nasango would disappear. It's just an example, but it's a detail, and the detail makes a difference.
Sure.
The other aspect is the cultural aspect. When you hear the people, the Korean people, when you feel their passion, when you feel the passion that they have for the national team, it makes you feel more responsible for the future, and in the good way, in the bad way. For example, we know that every match against Japan was a huge pressure for everybody. If we live abroad, we are not going to be able to feel that pressure. What I can tell you, maybe it's a little bit what I'm going to say, but if you have a wife, a long distance relation can result, of course, but you are going to miss a moment. Right? And life
That is very true.
Life is made by moments, not only the special moments, but all the moments. And living in Korea, we felt all the moments, the bad ones and the good ones, and we had more the reality in our mind. So I think that can result living abroad, but it's better in our way of see the things to live in the country that we work, and we are doing the same here.
And Coach, you mentioned in your previous interview with the KFA that, for a player to be selected to play for you guys, all 7 of your coaches needed to reach an agreement. Mm-hmm. Obviously you don't have to tell us the names of the players, but could you let us know if there were any instances, if there were players that you thought would be would be good players for the team, but you weren't able to invite them after discussing with the rest of the coaches, or vice versa, where there are players that other coaches perhaps wanted to invite to the team, but it didn't quite work out.
To said on that interview was that all 7 of us had an opinion. We tried to arrange a common decision, but not always was possible to do that. At the end, it's Paulo Bento that has to decide, and in some situations we have different opinions, and that is normal. Today is Wednesday. On Monday here, the call up went out for the press, and we have different opinions in some players. It's normal that. But after that, it's Paulo Bento decision. After Paulo Bento decides what is best, it's all our decision, and we are going to assume as all. But it's very important each one of us give our opinion. Very important, because if I was a head coach, and I am always telling this to Paulo in the discussion moment, if I was head coach, and if I only have yes men saying yes to everything I said, I didn't want for sure. I wouldn't want for sure. The discussion make us think. And like every time I have a different opinion than Paulo, at least he will think about it. At least he will put his decision in doubt, and then he would take his decision. But yes, we had different opinions on that time. Some players have different decisions. But after all, Paulo decided, and it's our decision. You want to know
Makes
a name?
perfect sense.
You want to know a name?
Well, sure, I wouldn't mind.
Give you a name because it's not Paulo. Don't care about.
Okay.
Him in York. He never came with us. And it was always not always, because then he decreased his performance level. But at the beginning, him in York was a doubt, and was a constant discussion between us.
Are we talking about the Gwangju player?
Yes, the offensive midfielder.
Gwangju player, okay.
Very short player. Yeah.
Very talented player.
Yes, when we saw him, it was we thought, well, we have to do something about him, and maybe he could have an opportunity, but then he decreased his performance level, and after all, he didn't. But in one moment,
that's interesting.
In one moment, we have different opinions about him.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's really interesting, because there's no doubt that he's one of the most skilled players in the K-League. So it's really interesting that you guys are interested in him. In Korean football, coach, now it's a bit of a serious question, I guess. In Korean football, coach, we've had this history of individual players making an error in big games, in big tournaments. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, I mean, in my opinion, most of those mistakes in reality are more like collective failures rather than individual mistakes, to be honest, the way I look at it, especially. But players are often, I mean, you know how it is with the fans and the media. The players are often, heavily criticized for those mistakes, individual players. And during your time in Korea, the biggest debate or the biggest concern from the fans and the media was that defenders and midfielders could be prone to making mistakes when they play the ball out of the back under pressure. From a coaching perspective, Coach Sergio, how do you protect a player from these types of, negative energy from the outside?
So, first of all, mistakes make part of our life and make part of the player's life too. So we should face the mistakes, we should recognize them, and then we should avoid as much as we can, but the matches are made by mistakes. But this is only words. You cannot say to the player, "Oh, this is a mistake. Tomorrow will be another day. Tomorrow the sun will rise again." No, these don't result. As you told, many of that mistakes, and I don't think it was too much mistakes, because the times that we unbalanced the opponent with our build-up was much more than the mistakes that we committed, and this is another aspect that is important to highlight. But you were right when you say that some of these mistakes are committed not because the player that has the ball missed the pass, but because what is going around him, what was going around him. For example, I will be more specific. We used to build with three at the back. Sometimes we push the defensive midfielder for the middle of the two central backs. And what we want with that is attract the pressure of the opponent, release one of the central backs of the side. He can progress, he can achieve the best channel and the more aggressive channel to win. On that time, it was in our idea also that, as I told you before, that we want lateral backs that are really deep in the pitch. But with that, we were creating problems to the player with the ball, because the lining pass on the side, the lining pass on the corridor didn't exist, and the player only had the option to connect inside in the interior space. Who is the fault of that? Is the player that made a bad pass, or is the coach player that hides the lateral back? So we have to analyze everything. Training sessions, matches, everything, all the details. What we did after that is the answer that to your question, that how do you protect the players? Create an environment around them that gives them more solutions to play in order we can avoid the mistakes. And we put back a little bit our lateral, and with that he already had connections on the sides and connections on the middle, and with that the kind of pressure of the opponent will not be so effective. So, but mistakes make part of our life, as I told. And what Paulo and the rest of the technical staff used to say is, as long as you make what we asked, the responsibility will be ours, and we will assume that for the public, for the press, and we will assume that for you. Don't worry about that. And I think that message goes to the player, went to the players, and they accepted that message.
Very interesting, Coach, because during your time in Korea, another big debate was whether Korean players, like there was a big question of, can the Korean players, are they capable of playing the type of football that you and Coach Bento really wanted them to play, a possession-based, proactive style of football? Because a lot of times, a lot of media and fans often said that your football is too obsessed with the build-up, high possession, short passes. But I'm sure you know, Coach, at the World Cup in 2022, our possession actually wasn't very high. And we were one of the teams that played the most long balls, and we won the most aerial. I think we won more aerial duels than anybody in the group stage. And we were still very successful in playing the way we wanted to play. So could you explain to us, in your words, what type of football did Korea want to play at the 2022 World Cup?
I will explain, but I will rewind a little bit for the qualification phase.
Sure.
It's not possible to play direct against teams that defend in 30 meters. It's not possible. We have to attract them. We have to take them and push them to pressing. And because of that, some ball possessions were longer than we would like. But what players had in mind, and this is one message that was transmitted to them: keep with the ball until you find the moment to unbalance the opponent. Don't be in a rush to make the things, because in 30 meters they are going to be comfortable. Attract them, and after that, find the most aggressive lining pass. Find the moment when they are unbalanced, and this was really important. And in the World Cup, you don't need to do this. The strong teams that played against us comes to press us from the in a high block from the beginning. Uruguay made that, Portugal made that, Ghana made that. So for each match, we have our game model, as I told you before, but we have different strategies also. And the strategy during the qualification phase could not be play long balls, because they will be 11 players behind in 30 meters. And what our players had in mind on that time, and we told them very specifically that if we can achieve to the opponent goal with 2 or 3 passes, we are not going to give 10. And that happened, if you remember, in the friendly matches that we played against Uruguay, Costa Rica, against teams that press us in a high block. We are not crazy. We are not want to have the ball just because to have the ball. No. I repeat. We wanted to unbalance the opponent. We wanted to attract them. We wanted to play inside their block and outside their block. And for that, we want to take them from the 30 meters that they were defending. And because of that, the ball possession. The other situation was in the qualification phase. Every time you lost the ball is the moment that the opponent is going to start to be unbalanced. Every time you lost the ball, they are going to lift to counter-attack. It's the moment to recover, and it's the moment to make our counter transition. And it's the moment when the opponent is going to be with less players behind. And we scored a lot of goals with our defensive transitions that after that gave offensive counter-attack. In the World Cup, as I told you, was not like this. World Cup, we wanted to explore with our fast wingers the back of the defensive line of the opponent that usually had up but we made the same. We attract them. We leave playing from behind. We usually Singyou did not make a direct game. Usually he didn't. We press, we attract, and after that, yes, we attract with midfielders that went to the space or to the long balls with our striker. That was a strategy for that matches that were a common strategy, and I think that went well. But it's more difficult when we play direct. When you in your game model you play direct usually, and then you want to play indirect. It's more difficult than you use to have the ball, and after that, sometimes we are going to use this. And this was the reason.
Coach, I had the privilege of speaking with Lee recently, couple of weeks ago, and he told me, one of the things he told me that I thought was very interesting was that when you were there, when Paulo Bento was there, what Paulo Bento told the players before the World Cup in 2022 was really helpful to these players mentally. That's what he told me. He told me that Paulo told the players not to feel pressured about going to the World Cup because, going to the last 16 of the World Cup, I mean, I'm sure you know, prior to 2022, Korea has only done it twice despite going to the World Cup about 10 times. So, and Lee told me that Coach Bento mentioned to the players how important it is for for them to enjoy the tournament rather than feeling pressured about achieving a certain result. I mean, did the coaching staff kind of feel that the mental pressure on these Korean players going into the World Cup was a little too much at one point? Like, is that sort of why? Was there a concern from your side when it comes to the sort of like the mental well-being of the players going into this tournament?
Yes, that was one of the privileges to live in Korea. We felt that in our lives. If we didn't live in Korea and we only go to the World Cup, we didn't know how much pressure the players feel in this kind of moment. So Lee Jae-sung is, aside of a tremendous player, is a fantastic human being. Fantastic. And he was right saying that Paulo and us try to take the responsibility of the players and assuming that all the bad results will come to us, to the technical staff, to Paulo's decision, and they only should enjoy the game. Because if they enjoy the game, we will be near to achieve our goal. We will be near to succeed. And it's not easy, only by words, to get that. Because I have some difficulties to say that. The love and the honor that the players have to represent Korea, to represent their people, I never saw that in any other any other country. I never saw. And this makes them feel more responsible for that. And the people should have this in mind, that they should be side by side with the players in the good moments and in the bad moments also, because they suffered with that pressure. Huh? They suffered with that pressure. And our advice was, if you are not able for each player to be in the social media, don't be. Don't read nothing. If you are able, feel free to do that. But if you are not capable to do this, don't go to the social media. And I think they received well this indication, and the performance was amazing. The performance was incredible. And I don't say this because of the result, because sometimes 1 minute, like we had in Portugal, against Portugal, can make all the difference. If you ask me, did you train the counter-attack after the corner that you scored the second goal against Portugal? No, we didn't train that. This was the heart of Son Heung-min to make that long distance run with the ball. It was the heart of Wang Hee-chan to make that fantastic breakthrough movement. It was the heart of the whole team to believe on that. And this is what the Korean players always give to the national team. And it's an emotion for me to play like this, because in my mind I'm recovering that
Right.
so many moments, but we lived many moments with many intense moments with the players. Players that were able to sacrifice themselves for the country. Son Heung-min once was injured and he was insisting to play in the qualification phase, and it was Paulo that told him, no, for me the human being is more important than the player. You are not going to play. And he was insisting to play. So for a player like Son Heung-min, that is I don't have adjectives to say what it is. It is tremendous, is fantastic, is wonderful. For a top level player like this one, insist to play under injury. What makes him to do this? Only the love for the country, only the honor for the country, and that the people should have in mind.
Yeah. And I ask this question, Coach, because Im Bum is someone that I've gotten to know for years now. And when I first met him in 2018, 2019, that's right at the time when you guys were integrating him to the national team. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Coach, the criticism towards In Bum was extreme at the time. But it seemed like Paulo, you and the technical team had so much trust for him. And it's not just Imbum too, you know, guys like, you mentioned him, 나상호, 김문환, 김승규, 정우영, you know, did you ever feel that they were affected by these by these criticisms? Because I'm going to be honest with you, Coach, like even Kim Mun-wan, he's somebody that I know personally as well. But, Coach, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I did not think he would play that well at the World Cup. 100% being honest with you. And then I saw him play against Uruguay. It was a fantastic performance from him. How proud were you to see them do so well at the World Cup after a whole 4-year journey?
This is the most important for us and the biggest happiness that you can have. That is having players that you believe, achieving very good performance, but more than that, win their interior conflict. When I'm talking about interior conflict, it's the pressure that players that you mentioned and more players felt. They won that battle. And now they are stronger. We are talking about different players. Different personalities also. Wang Kim-bom is different than Kim Mun-wan. It's different, and it's natural the differences between the human beings. But both of them, in different ways, won the battle, and it's difficult to accept so many criticisms. It's difficult, but they won the battle. And I don't know if you know, but it's another inconfidence here. Wang Kim-bom, we used to say that is Paulo Bento's son. Yeah. We used to Paulo Bento. The first time we saw Wang Kim-bom, it was in the Asian Games.
Right.
We were watching on TV, and we said, "Who is this? Who is this player?" And Paulo, at that moment, he told, "It seems João Moutinho." You know João Moutinho, the Portuguese player.
Yeah, of course.
It seems
Fantastic player.
Is and Imbom also. Imbom, in my opinion, continue to play below the level that he can play. Understand? I think he can achieve much higher level, much higher level. So it was fantastic to see and to watch their performances. It was fantastic to see that they won the battle. That it was not easy to win. It was fantastic to see that. Fantastic. And more examples also.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Coach, was you had something very different compared to maybe some of the other times during your time in Korea, and that was the pandemic with COVID. Did the pandemic have an impact on how the team was managed from a coaching perspective? Because recently, I also had another privilege of speaking with Dr. Kwangjun Kim, who was the team doctor with you guys during your time in Korea as well. And he told me that the camp you guys had in Europe during the pandemic, when we played against Mexico and Qatar, at least from a team perspective, I mean, there were many concerns going into that camp, but what he told me was that really helped to bring everybody together, because in a really difficult situation for everyone, players and the staff, they saw from each other that they're really just willing to sacrifice and work together for this team. So what I wanted to ask you was, what kind of impact did this pandemic have from a coach's perspective on the Korean national team? Was it difficult to keep the players motivated? Because, you know, there was a point in time when we couldn't play any games and we didn't know when we could play again.
It was a very difficult time. That training camp in Austria was crazy. But Dr. Kim was right in one thing. I really believe that difficult moments make us stronger. And on that time, I think the group stays stronger. The group stays stronger. very difficulties, very situations without knowing what to do, which players would be able to play. At the end, in the day of the match, in the friendly matches, one or two players stay out of the starting 11. Very difficult to manage. For us, it was also our first time. Very, very difficult to manage. It was difficult to establish a plan. We don't like to react. We like to be proactive, as we know. But on that time, it was reaction after reaction, and it was difficult. The uncertainty that comes after that training camp, if the leagues are going to continue or not, if there will be people or not in the stands, if we can, even the technical staff can assist to the matches or not, which kind of consequences will have in our players. When I talk about consequences, I talk about mental consequences, physical consequences, technical consequences. It was very difficult, and I don't like to remember that training camp and those moments. It was really difficult, but I agree with Dr. Kim. That difficult moment made us strong, made us stronger.
Coach, you mentioned in another one of your previous interviews, with the KFA, that the Korean footballers generally have very good techniques, and that it's really rare. I mean, we've heard this before from other coaches as well, that how rare it is for a country to have so many two-footed players like Korea does, players that can use their right and left feet perfectly. But you also mentioned in that interview, I thought this was really, really interesting. You mentioned, despite the technical brilliance of a lot of these players, the Korean players can really improve their understanding of the game. Could you elaborate a little bit more on this for us? Because I find this very, very interesting.
Yes, I can. It's a fact that when you arrive to Korea and you see players with 18 years old, 19 years old, and after 2 years or 3 years, they still have the same weak points, they still have the same strong points, they still have the same features, something is wrong. Something is wrong. Some work is not going well. And what I mean about the game understanding is that I mean about the decision-making process with and without the ball. Why I should make certain actions, where I should make, when I should make. These kind of things, I know that in the youth players formation, youth players education, don't exist. In Korea, don't exist. And we have to change that. How can we change that? With coach education. With coach education. For me, it would be easier to don't say this, but it's better to say in order we can open our eyes, and change the players' education, because technically they are amazing, physically they are amazing, but then they don't know how to defend a 1v1 situations, a 2v2 situations on the corridor. They have many individual references. They make the same movement. As I told, it was very common. Arrive to Korea and see that the players are not developing as they should. I'm not talking about the top level players that don't have this kind of difficulties. I'm talking about the general players, the biggest amount of the players, and how many players we are missing in Korea. How many very good players, very good potential players we are missing in Korea? How many? We have to change that. In order we have a better football country, we have to change that. We have to change the coach education. We have to change the in consequence the players' education. It's fundamental to change that. It's not only necessary to work the technique, not work the physical part. No, they should understand the game. They should know why to do this, when to do this, and where to do this. This is really important.
You talk very fondly about our players having love and passion for the game and commitment, and I always agree that's been there for our players in the player pool and in history for many, many years. But what was most striking about the 2022 Korea team that you had built was its resilience, from my mind. The team's mentality to fully commit to the methodology, to your game plan, to kind of the approach and belief and faith in the way we play. I think that was a standout feature of the team. And we had adversity during the tournament, right? Bento was red carded in the game against Ghana, and you took control for our game against Portugal. We also gave up a goal against Horta against Portugal, and we all bounced back, and we looked like a team that was always ready to do that. I truly believe it has been a lasting legacy. I don't know if you've been following closely to kind of our escapades at the Asian Cup, but we really looked like a team that would always come back and score at the end. We were a team that was ready to go right till the end and not give up. And that was something that was missing, I think, in previous teams that we had seen. As a long-suffering Korea fan, it was tough when we were in tournaments when we couldn't turn things around. But I think that has changed quite significantly. So from a coaching staff perspective, how do you instill that in a team? How do you foster that feeling within the group when your time with them is so limited? You're not coaching with them. You're not, in the field training them every single day of their careers. It's those short windows of time when you have FaceTime with them and able to give advice and instruction, right? So is it more you pick a player that has this sort of mental profile from your analysis that come into the group, or is that something that you try to push as part of the group that you develop? I'm curious to see kind of what your guys' philosophy is.
Well, my answer to that question is that players are normal human beings, and I think, and I only can talk about 2022 and the years before. What I think they have different was they really believed in our process. And to believe in the process is making you have more commitment with the team. Aside of that, the pleasure that we gave them to play with the ball was another thing. In your work, if you go every day work in a pleasure environment and committed with your goals, you are going to be a better professional. The players are the same. The players are the same. And you have to create an atmosphere of involvement, as you told really well, and you have to involve them in the process. One clear example. We arrived to October 2022 with one doubt in our head: how we are going to defend after 4 years and 2 months. How we are going to defend the lateral free kick? The doubts are normal in our lives. How we are going to defend the lateral free kick? We had doubts. We had a big discussion within our technical staff if we should maintain what we did during the 4 years, and we only suffered one, but that cannot be the biggest point to analyze. But how many times we were in the difficulties in the lateral free kicks? That is a very difficult action, much more difficult than the corner to defend. And the options were: we maintain, with our zone line with 7 players high, or as we saw with Allegri in Juventus, or we come a little bit back inside our box, and we attack the ball in front with the players that have a good aerial capacity. We thought, okay, let's try this in the friendly match in October, and then we decide. You know what happened in October? We didn't suffer any lateral free kick, so we could not conclude something. What we did was, okay, we are going to talk with the players. We are going to talk, and they will decide. And with that, we create responsibility. You create a commitment because they involve them in your choices. Of course, they will not choose the starting 11. Of course, they are not going to choose the tactical system, the dynamics, the strategy. No, but some details they can be part of the decision, and it was one of them. And at the end, they told, we are going to change. And we trained that in the training sessions, but we went to the World Cup without one single lateral free kick against in the friendly match.
You should have asked the Kim guys to just foul at the, on the side. Hey, we're gonna practice this out, so you just like bring a guy down. But
we did it well. Huh? We did it well.
yeah, we did good. Yeah, I think so.
Coach, another question I wanted to ask you was, were there anything in Korea that you wish you, Paolo, the technical team, that you guys wish that you were able to do but couldn't do, whether it was because of time or maybe some limits in terms of what you could have done? Were there anything that you really wish that you could have accomplished but you feel like you couldn't quite do it?
Not wish. Wish is a strong word for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we could be used in a different way. For example, we could manage, for example, a transversal game model to the youth teams. If TFA asked us, but it was not their idea, and for us it was good because since the beginning we knew that this will not going to happen. We knew that we only stay with the main national team. But looking for the features that we have, looking for the amount of work that we like to do, looking also for the quality that we have, I think that we should have been more involved on that. And it could have been good for everybody, even for us, because we started to look and to have more time with the younger players and to see them under our game ideas, game model. In terms of results, we could have achieved it, and we could have give a better Asian Cup that we gave.
Coach, that's so interesting that you mentioned the underage national teams and like you had an intention of maybe getting involved and making an impact there too. Because did you have something to say?
Not the intention. It was not the intention. It was something that if I was in the TFA side,
sure,
I would have asked us to do.
See, that's very interesting to us, Coach, because I mean, obviously, we understand your situation now. You haven't been in Korea the last 2 years, so you don't have the information on this. But what the KFA is trying to do now is to have the national team manager get involved in integrating the game model, the same player development, that kind of philosophy, kind of having that all across various age groups, whether it's under 23, under 20. It sounds like they don't have the intention of going down to the under 17 with this yet, but it looks like they're going to have the national team manager, a man you know as well, Hong Myung-bo, will be overseeing sort of like the development process of the under 20, under 23, and obviously his team, the senior national team. I mean, obviously, we're not necessarily asking for your opinion when, like, specifically about this, but what I do want to ask you is, just based on your expertise and your experience, is it, how common or how realistic is it for the technical team of the senior national team to be involved in the development of the underage national teams as well? And do you feel like it's possible for the national team, the senior national team management, to oversee under 17, under 20, under 21, under 23? Is that sort of like a realistic picture for you?
It depends. I think in general is a good idea, but it depends, of course, of the capacity of the coaches. Not only the head coach, that should be the big head of all the projects, but also his technical stuff. And I don't know as you told, I don't know that people. I don't know that the people that are working, except the two Portuguese coaches. I don't know the people that are working with Mr. Holmes. I don't know. I don't know the capacity that they have to do this. But if you have a big technical staff, as you have in your main national team, and if you decentralize functions and tasks to your assistants, it can have good results. But that depends, of course, and I don't know. I don't know if you listened before or not. That depends, of course, of the coach education, essentially. The capacity that they have to articulate different ages. It's not the same to coach. They don't. The needs are different in the professional football and in the youth team. Different. They are periods to work different things. You don't need to work the decision making process with Son, with Lee Kang-in. You don't need that.
Right.
You don't need that. But in youth stages, you need that. In order, they don't let the time go through, and after 2 and 3 years, they still have the same capacity, the same weaknesses, and what we talked before. But in general, it's a good idea. But operationalize is different. It's different. Can have different constrictions.
Makes sense. Makes total sense. Ryan, did you have a question for Coach?
Yeah. So you mentioned the coach's capacity to be coaching different age levels. But what if philosophically, if the different age groups can work in unison? So not necessarily using the coaching staff of the senior national team on the under 23, under 20, maybe even all the way down to under 17. Not using the same people, but having the same philosophy. Do you think that is necessary? Or because you mentioned different needs for different stage of the player's age, it would be okay to have a different strategy.
I think there are periods, as I told before, that they should have a transversal formation. They should know the reasons why they should make certain actions. Okay, and that period is decisive in their progression, their performances in the future. What I can tell is that when I talk about have the same philosophy, don't mean the same tactical system, don't mean the same strategy, don't mean the same game model. No, It means understand the game, as we talked before. It means that. It means know when I should do this, where I should do this, why I should do this. And with these three questions that should be developed during their formation process, the youth formation process, with these three questions, they will be much nearer to achieve the high level. This is a big problem in Korea because experience doesn't mean better performances than talent. Don't mean that. If you don't work this, as I told before, if you don't work this during this critical period on their formation, they will have much more difficulty.
What I do want to ask you, Coach, also is, I recently talked with, he may be one of your friends, Alexander Silva, who works with the Portugal under-21 team. You were brought up in that conversation because he knew you from his time in Portugal and stuff like that. And what he mentioned to me was, he told me that your staff, you, Paulo, and the rest of your staff, it's a very interesting dynamic with you guys because obviously, we know Paulo Bento's history as a player. He played in a World Cup that was hosted in Korea, and he also played against Korea. But he told me that you're somebody from a non-playing background, from an you came up through an academic pathway, and he kind of told me that it feels like, the way he sees it, it kind of feels like there's a balance between you and Paulo. Paulo's field experience and your academic background, kind of making a balance with your technical team. Coach, I want to ask you this because you're from an analyst background in terms of your career in football, and in Korea, I gotta be honest, if you're a team analyst, it's still very difficult for you to enter the territory of coaching. So somebody like you can be a great inspiration for a lot of the analysts who one day aspire to become coaches in Korea. So could you tell us a little bit about your experience of working your way up at Sporting, a top-level club in football, but I believe you met Paulo Bento there as an analyst there. Am I correct in saying that?
Not a secret for anyone. So in Portugal, I played in second division, in third division, and at the same time, because I was not good enough to be a professional football player,
right.
At the same time, I graduate in physical education with a specialization in football. After I finished after I finished my player career, I can say that Sporting invite me to coach their under 13. It was the team of Eric Dyer from Tottenham, from Bayern Munich.
Interesting. Yeah.
At that time, I was also a physical education teacher, and after that year, the sports director of Sporting Lisbon, that is Pedro Barbosa, that was a previous very good football player in Portugal, invited me to work in the professional level in Sporting, and I started to work with Tiago Maia, that now is assistant of Korea.
Very interesting, yeah.
National team. I started to work with Tiago Maia, with Pedro Marques, that was also in Manchester City, in the scouting. First, in the recruitment, I was responsible for the Scandinavian market, and in the year after, in the analyze also of the team. When Paulo left Sporting in 2010 and went to the Portuguese national team, he invited me to go with him as a scout. And then on 2000, I worked in the Euro 2012, World Cup 2014, and after that we were second. And on 2014, Paulo invited me to be part of his technical stuff, if I can say this, working on the pitch. We already have very good connection. We feel the football in the same way. I think we complement each other really well, as Alexandre told you. The way Alexandre is a fantastic professional, and a friend also. And what I can say to the people that are making a similar way in Korea and are having difficulties is that you should be prepared. Because the worst thing is if the opportunity appears and you are not prepared, it's the worst thing. Because it's your fault. And fortunately in Portugal, the graduation in physical education and the first licenses of coaches are really good. And this goes directly of what I was talking about the coach education in Korea. Should improve in order we have better knowledge. And with that better knowledge, even professionals that now are working as a scout can have that opportunity because they have the most important. They have the knowledge of the game. The scout knows perfectly the moments of the game, the knowledge of the game, knows how to analyze, how to analyze individual, how to analyze collectively, how to analyze the team, how to analyze the opponent. They have it all. So they should believe that one time the opportunity will appear, but on that time they should be prepared. And I think I was prepared on the time that opportunity appeared.
Coach, we obviously don't want to talk too much about the situation at the KFA right now. That's something completely out of our hands. But it's also true that for the players, a lot of whom that you spent a lot of time with, they're going through a really difficult time right now for things that are totally out of their control. And I'm, sure you had other situations during your time in Korea that made things difficult for you guys and the players as well. But so mainly what I want to ask you is there anything you want to tell the players, maybe words of encouragement?
I think they don't need my advice. They can have my word, but the love and the proud that they feel for the country and for the people will be enough in order they superate this moment. And I have no doubt that they will achieve the aim. I have no doubt of that because they have the commitment with the country. They have the best work ethic that I ever saw, and by themselves and with, of course, with some organization, of course, they will achieve their aim. And you know what is really important and really different in Korea is to have players that don't play and still have the same love for the country. You cannot imagine, it's easy when you play, but you cannot imagine the support that players like Park Joo-hoo, Lee Chung-yong, Koo Jae-sol, he gave us before the World Cup and after the World Cup and during all the process, and they were not the choices. What made them do this? The love for the country, the wish to achieve good results. And so I don't have too much words for the players, but I have words for the people. They should be very proud of these players. The players that play, the players that sometimes will commit mistakes, the players that wants to play injured, the players that don't play and still have the same passion. They should have a big passion for these players because they are fantastic representatives of the country. And I know what I'm talking about. I know because I already was in other contexts And this is something that makes Korea different. This is something that makes Korea different. Don't forget, never forget this. The players are the most important things in football. Players and the ball. The rest we can manage, and we should manage with organization, of course. The rest can support, but don't treat bad the players, because the Korean players don't deserve that. Don't give them good pitches, give them emotional support, give them good coaches. With that, Korean football, I have no doubt, will progress a lot.
So, Coach, as a last question before we turn off the recording, honestly, Coach, I mean, I don't mean to really share this with anybody else because I really haven't. But one of the most memorable days for me in my career, like with football, I've been doing this for the last 16, 17 years, Coach. And one of the biggest memories that I'm gonna have when I'm out here, done with my career or whatever, is the fact that I received messages from Coach Felipe Coelho, and that I received that message from you on your last day in Korea before you left our country. To receive that message from the coaching staff was really special to me. I'm gonna be honest, and I don't say this a lot, Coach. You know a little bit about me by now, but I'm not the kind of person who gets emotional often. But to be completely honest, when I got that message from you, it was very emotional because number one, I wasn't expecting you to write me that kind of message. That's number one. And number two, I was surprised that you even knew who I was. And number three, it was just a really nice message at a perfect time because, we were just at a time when we were celebrating this amazing result for Korea, first, World Cup last 16 for the first time in 12 years. And, it was a really special moment for me. So not just me, Coach, but if you have some last words for the people in Korea and the people that you connected with during your time in Korea, if you any last words for the fans who, honestly, Coach, not going through the best time in terms of their fandom in Korean football, but any words of encouragement or anything that you want to share with our people in Korea who've been following you guys, during your time in Korea and now as well.
It was a pleasure. And it was the first time that I sent a message to a journalist. It was, I am now I'm lying because my wife is journalist and I already sent her message. But I read many of your posts, many of your articles, and I shared that with the technical staff during the process in Korea. And you made us be better because it was when you had to make some critics, you made it, but it was what you were thinking on that time, and this is the most important. Speak for yourself. Your comments made us think in some aspects, and because of that, because you are an honest guy, because you think by yourself, I broke a code that I have, that I don't speak informal. I don't make informal situations with journalists aside of my wife. I decided. I shared with her if I should make it or not, and she told me, if you are feeling that, make it. And I text you, and I said thank you for being honest during all the process, because it's easy to see when a journalist wants the best for his country or not. It's really easy. And you are one of these few.
No, I really appreciate that, Coach. Yeah, that means a lot to me.
So, what can I say to the Korean people? I think I'm going to repeat. Still proud of your humble country. it's a fantastic country. As I told at the beginning, my kids are always asking when we are going to come back. My wife, she's here now. She's listening. She just arrived. My wife, today in the morning, and she can confirm that. Today in the morning, she told me, today I dreamed about Korea, that we still lived in Korea. So Korea is our country also. I have a very good friends there. Our daughter, youngest daughter, was made there. Many people helped me. Essentially, Michael Kim helped me in that moment. Michael Kim and his wife helped us in that moment. So I cannot be more proud. I cannot have a bigger feeling for that country than I have now. And I think it was easy to see the happiness that I celebrate the goal against Portugal. I started running. It was crazy, and I love my country. I love my country, but I felt that we were making 55 million people so happy, and this for us was the most important, and they really deserve it. They already suffered so much. It's time to be happy in Korea. It's time to be happy in Korea. So a big hug for all the Korean people. This is the only word that I have, and I miss Korea, our family, our technical staff, and I have another appointment to do. I just, if you allow me, I would like to send a big hug to Son Juno. Okay, Son Juno is in our heart. Okay, and I think that he doesn't deserve to suffer what he's suffering now. Okay.
네, 여러분 어떠셨나요? 세르지우 코스타 수석 코치 지금 현재 UAE 대표팀 수석 코치를 하고 계시죠. 그리고 저희 2018년부터 2022년 카타르 월드컵까지 저희 한국 대표팀 수석 코치를 맡으셨던 우리 코치님 만나보고 오셨습니다. 방송을 마무리를 했는데 사실 정호영, 준우님은 지금 이 인터뷰를 마무리하고 가셨습니다. 형은 굉장히 좀 사실 우리가 특이한 방송을 하지 않았습니까? 원래 하지 않는? 좀 어떻게 보셨나요?
네,
보신 게 아니죠? 참여를 하셨죠?
세르지우 코스타 같은 경우는 저희가 이제 3차전 포르투갈전에서 이제 좀 더 봤잖아요. 일반적으로 우리가 수석 코치 개념의 분들을 월드컵 때 이렇게 보는 게 쉽지 않은데 그때는 완전 거의 감독의 자리에서
그렇죠.
있었던 게 기억이 나고 그런 면에서 그런 분을 이렇게 직접 얘기를 할 수 있었던 게 참 좋았고 원래 대회 전까지만 해도 벤투 이 스태프가 한참 좀 얘기가 많았잖아요. 이강인을 그렇게 국민들이 연호를 하는데 왜 뽑지를 않느냐. 하지만 이 스태프는 우리가 생각했던 것보다 훨씬 더 사려 깊었고 고찰이 많았고 고뇌가 많았고 우리가 생각했던 것보다는 훨씬 더 깊이 이미 알고 있었고 생각을 다 해놓은 게 있었다라는 거를 이번 인터뷰를 통해서 더 느낄 수 있었던 것 같아요. 선수들이 사실 거의 그동안 거의 최장급 감독 스태프 코칭 스태프였죠 이게. 코로나를 거치면서까지
그렇다고 볼 수 있죠.
그들이 왜 그렇게 오래 할 수 있었는지 그리고 그 이후에 선수들이 이 코칭 스태프와 헤어질 때 왜 울었는지 등을 오늘 인터뷰를 통해서 좀 더 그런 이 선수들이 존중할 만한 그 가치들을 이번 인터뷰를 통해서 볼 수 있지 않았나 생각합니다.
네. 사실 제가 놀란 부분이 그런 부분인 것 같아요. 왜냐하면 벤투 감독의 어떤 그동안의 우리가 비춰진 모습을 봤을 때나 겪어본 걸 봤을 때 그러니까 우리가 생각했던 것보다 이 코칭 스태프가 선수들이랑 어떤 인간적으로 정이 굉장히 많이 든 것 같다는 생각이 들었어요. 저는 솔직히 말씀드리면은 이 전에도 사실 이 세르지우 코스타 코치랑 대화를 나누면서도 그 정도인 줄은 사실 몰랐어요. 이번 인터뷰를 진행을 하면서는 그냥 예, 왜냐하면 이분들이 한국에서 일을 하고 있을 때는 늘 그런 인상이 있었거든요. 제가 볼 때는 그냥 우리는 여기 일하러 온 사람들이다.
예.
우리는 프로답게 여기서 일을 하고 갈 사람들이다라는 인상이 늘 그런 인상을 풍겼던 게 사실이었어요. 사실 이분들이. 예, 근데 이게 이 시간이 지나고 나서 이 옛날 얘기처럼 얘기를 하니까 이분들이 확실히 선수들한테 정을 좀 많이 줬구나. 이게 그냥 무슨 뭐 와서 뭐 일만 하다 간 게 아니구나. 이게 인간적으로 선수들과 확실히 연결고리가 좀
우리가
있었구나라는 생각이 좀
그
들었던 것 같아요.
친선전 할 때 대패를 당할 때도
네,
뭔가 저도 내면적으로 그런 부분이 있었습니다. 사실은 이 포르투갈 사람들이 아무리 이게 친선전이긴 한데 한국 사람들에게 있어서 일본전이라는 게 얼마나 크게 중요한 경기인지를 잘 인지를 못하고 너무 함부로 이강인 제로톱을 쓴 건 아닌가? 막 이런 생각도 했고 또 아시안컵을 하면서 2019년도 아시안컵을 하면서 우리가 아시안컵을 아무리 이게 월드컵을 항상 바라보던 한국 대표팀이지만 아시안컵을 자꾸 우승 못한 나라 치고는 이제 얼마나 간절한지를 이 사람들이 이 외국인 스태프들이 잘 이해를 못하나? 카타르와의 이 경기에서 우리가 이보다는 좀 더 신중했어야 되는 거 그런 거 이해를 못하나? 라고 생각을 잠깐이나마 했지만 이들은 다 충분히 알고 있었다. 그 문화적 차이도 여기 한국에서 머물러야 하는 것이 얼마나 중요한지도 선수들이 얼마나 과하게 이 압박을 받는지 그리고 압박을 풀어주기 위해 노력을 하는지 등을 통해서도 얼마나 노력을 했는지 알 수 있었고 월드컵 본선에 나가서는 우리가 그 누구도 두려워하지 않았다라는 그걸 통해서 이게 선수들과의 그 어떤 그냥 단순한 축구적인 교류뿐만이 아니라 그 이상이 있었다라고 느낄 수 있었던 것 같아요.
굉장히 신기했던 부분이 그거였어요. 빌드업이라는 그런 개념을 약간 좀 뭔가 뭐랄까요? 그게 좀 과하게 우리가 사실
맞죠.
부각된 부분이 없지 않아
네.
있다는 얘기를 인터뷰를 진행하면서도 말을 했었는데 근데 이제 그런 과정을 거치면서 선수들의 실수를 어떻게 줄여줄까라는 고민을 했다는 얘기 그리고 그런 게 확실히 진짜 있었거든요. 우리가 최종 예선 끝나고 이제 친선전을 하면서 월드컵을 준비하는 과정으로 넘어갈 때 제가 사실 기사에도 굉장히 비중 있게 쓴 부분이 하나가 있었어요. 그때 분석 칼럼 계속 쓸 때 풀백들이 최종 예선을 할 때처럼 올라가질 않고 있다. 그리고 이 선수들이 볼을 이렇게 가지고 플레이를 주도적으로 하는 그런 빈도수가 확실히 줄어든 부분이 없지 않아 있다라고 제가 기사 내용에도 굉장히 비중 있게 쓴 적이 있는데 그런 설명이 있었죠. 물어보지도 않았는데 설명이 나왔죠. 실수를 줄이기 위해서 월드컵에 들어가면 풀백들의 위치를 중앙에 있는 선수들이 패스라이가 좀 더 편하게 센터백이랑 이 수비형 미드필더가 좀 내린 그런 결정이 있었다라고 얘기를 한 거여서 저는 좀 거기에서 좀 신기한 부분이 있었습니다. 이게 그때 내가 보고 느낀 게 그거였구나. 라는 생각을 좀 하게 돼가지고 개인적으로는 이 축구를 좋아하는 저의 그걸로는 그 부분이 저는 가장 흥미로웠다. 근데 이제 다른 흥미로운 내용도 굉장히 많았죠 사실. 이제 이 어떤 코치님들과 선수들의 어떤 이런 관계에 대한 그 관계가 모르겠어요. 우리가 생각했던 것보다 훨씬 더 밀접한 관계가 아니었나라는 생각이 사실 좀 들었어요.
금방 함부로 나올 수 있는 게 아니죠.
네, 그게 사실 뭐 결과가 잘 나왔으니까 뭐 잘 비춰진 것도 뭐 없지 않아 있긴 하겠지만 그렇게 간단한 그런 관계는 아니었던 것 같아요. 이걸 보니까 확실히 좀 특별한 관계를 한국에 있었을 때 맺지 않았나 선수들이랑 그런 생각이 좀 들었습니다. 그래서 뭐 가뜩이나 긴 인터뷰 보시느라고 굉장히 수고하셨고요. 저희가 이 인터뷰를 조금 잘라서 보시기 편하게끔 좀 이렇게 한번 준비를 또 할 생각이니까 이렇게 길게 하나 또 만들어서 올리고 또 짧게 몇 개 잘라가지고 괜찮은 부분들이 있는 대로 정리를 해서 올려보도록 하겠습니다. 그러면은 형도 정말 수고 많으셨고 우리 준우님도 수고하셨습니다. 그리고 진민이 형도 다음 방송 출연해 주실 때를 오시면은 저희가 한번 소감을 들어보기로 하면 될 것 같고요. 오늘 그럼 방송은 참 뭔가 색다른 뭔가 의미가 있고 색다른 이 방송을 한번 마무리를 해보도록 하겠습니다. 그러면 저희는 다음 방송으로 찾아뵙겠습니다. 감사합니다.